Oh. Hmm.
Hello.
Hello. I wonder if Ernie forgot.
What's that?
I wonder if Ernie forgot, or he must be
Uh,
melting in the heat.
so at 10 after, he'll say, "Oh, I'm here. I'm here."
Yeah. Oh,
Johnny.
Good work.
Good work,
hi,
Johnny.
Johnny.
Where was Ernie for Shabbos?
Palm Desert. He has some sort of convention.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
In the heat.
I'm sure it was very
In the
hot.
heat.
Well, I'm sure it was inside.
I would hope so.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
A good walk, everybody.
Good
Good
work.
work.
Good work.
Enjoying the heat, Ernie.
117.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it's a dry heat.
Ah,
I
yes,
hope so.
yes.
It's a dry heat. It
Yeah.
wasn't that bad, right? Susie sat outside.
It's really not. It's you think it's, but the lack of humidity means it's a big difference. But still, it's 117. That's crazy. It was
Yeah,
hot here too.
To be honest with you,
Yeah.
It was the air conditioning is so cold. I had to wear a jacket. It was, I was wearing shirts. It's too cold. But the Chabad, Harold, I'm sure
Yeah.
she caters the. We had our meals from Chabad.
Yeah, from what, Rancho Mirage or Palm
No, we're
Springs?
we're in the Marriott, so that's Palm Desert.
Oh, so probably Posner. Probably the food, no.
So there's a different Chabad in Palm Desert.
I think the Rancho Mirage services Palm Desert. There's a competition between the two, between the Palm Springs and Rancho Mirage. They're brothers-in-law. They don't get along.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What else is new?
Mhm.
Yeah, the challah, I think it was homemade.
Yeah, she makes challah, the Rabbitson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was very good. We brought some stuff, but it was most part it was very nice.
How was the conference?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They talked about politics. Who cares? In 2016, we were at the same conference, and they bring very high-powered think tank people who predict
Yeah.
is medicine going to look like over the next 10 years. So at that conference, I'll never forget it. They said it was like 2 weeks before the election. And they said, oh yeah, 82% of all the predictions was that Hillary Clinton was going to be president.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they were. All the mavens were predicting that at that.
Yeah.
Conference. Remember
Yeah.
that. Here it's they didn't. It's a toss up. They didn't say much about that. And in medicine, it's all about the state government, not federal government. Federal government is so divided that all the important decisions are made at the state level. Newsom has a lot of power.
Right. Right.
Okay, we're on Ayin Gimel, 80 and 73. Bava Basra, 73. New Perik. Amoicher Sasfina, Perik Hamishi. We've been talking about selling houses, fields. So now, various assets. Now the Gemara says, Amoicher Sasfina. You sell a boat. Mochar sa toiren v'sa nes v'sa oigen. The Gemara will explain all those terms. Ve'es kol hamanhigin osa. Any other implements on the boat that are needed to drive the boat. Aval lo mochar lo es ha'avodim. Let's say the boat owner owned slaves. So just because you bought the boat, you don't buy the.
Sorry, sorry.
Ayin Gimel,
Yeah,
the new
okay.
Amoiches Asfina. The laws are Martzufin. The Martzufin sounds like they were various like chests to put schoira. The boats then were used to transport, like the boats that bring containers from China. It brings schoira to sell. So these were like, think of them like containers. Velosa Antiki. The Antiki is the place where they would store the containers, like the hold. So interesting, that was not sold when you sold the boat, the Antiki. However, Bisman Sha'amarlo, Hivachol Masha Besocha, when the terms were stipulated and the seller said, I'm selling you the boat and everything inside of it, then Hare Kulan Mechurin. Then this is similar to the halachas we had when we sold a house or a field. Toiren, what's that? Iskaria. Rashi says the mast. Portion of vilon. The vilon is the sail. So boats had a big, tall wooden pole called the mast. So that is sold with the boat. they would particularly use cedars of Lebanon wood for these masts. Nes is Idra. Idra is the sail. Nes ha'amim, like a flag. V'chein omer sheish barikma mitzrayim, haya mifrasech lioslach lanes. It's a sail. Ugin, Tani Rabchia elu ugunim shela. Rashbam says anchor. Look at the Rashbam. Anchors shel barzel. Anchor made out of steel. Rashi says, or Rashbam says, "Mashlichim b'mayim lamida sfina b'mokem echad." If you want the boat to stay in one place, you throw the anchor, and that'll anchor the ship wherever you threw the anchor. So that's part of what you sell when you sell a boat. Chenu Omer, halahein tisaberna, arasher yigdalu, halahein teagena, livilti heyos leish. It's a posuk in Rus. The lashon of igun is like standing still or stopping somebody in their tracks. So now you understand why the word aguna, a woman who's trapped, its source is from anchor. She's anchored in no man's land because she can't get married. So that's where the term aguna comes from. Chained, maybe because they would drop anchors with a chain. What are the manhigin? Amra Baba, Elo Meshoitin Shala. Rashbam says various implements that were used to do the boat, I guess, mops and other implements for the boat. Maybe the thing to turn the boat.
And it said that the direction talks about direction, or must be some kind of, they must have had some.
Well, you remember in the back of a boat is like a
Yeah.
stick that goes in the water, and it helps you turn the boat one way or the other. Chenu Omer, Alonim mi Bashan, Asu Mishotayich. The trees of the Bashan were used to make this implement.
Talking about the oars, oak made the oars. They're made of oak. That's what it is.
Okay, the oars in order to row the boat.
Yeah.
Oars. Okay. Torah bara mocher es asfina, mocher es a iskala. This is like a gangplank. Huh?
Yeah.
That's bora maim shebesol. Or some say it's like a rope ladder to how you get up on the boat from the below. There's bora maim shebesocha. They also had a cistern to hold fresh water in a boat. This is a little rowboat. Big boats had safety little boats that if it was sinking, you could get away with the little boat, like the boats on the Titanic, right, that were hanging off on the side.
Yeah, they didn't help too much.
Well, they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough. They had enough for 880 people. 1,500 perished. And from then on, it was illegal that you had to have the number of seats in the rescue boats as you have passengers. That was not the law at the time of the Titanic. Tumchus Omar, Amoiches Asfina, Moches Adugis. Now, what is the dugis? Amarava Bitzis, I know dugis. It's just another name for the rescue boat. But Rav Nosson Bablohav, Rav Nosson was Babylonian. Kari la Butzis, he called this little boat a Butzis. Kida Amri Inshi, Butziasa de Mishan. That was what they called it. Sumchus to Eretz Yisrael Kari Dugis. Kidichsiv V'achrizchan b'siros duga. Okay. Now, the Gemara is going to go on a fanciful tangent. This is a very famous Gemara coming up with fanciful stories about boats and sailors. Amar Rabba, Ishtarli nachusayama. Sailors who would travel on the seas told him, Hi Gala, there was a wave, Shemat Balasfina, and it caused the boat to drown. It looked like a bright, blinding light of fire at the top of the wave. And to get saved from that, we would write the name of Hashem on certain, I guess, sticks, and they would beat the wave. And they would say, what would they write? Eye asher eye, ko Hashem tzavokos, amen amen sela, v'nayich. And the wave would get smaller. Amar Rabba, ishtarli nachusayama. Sailors would tell us, bein gala legala tlosmei parsi. Between one wave and the next is 300 parasois. That's like hundreds of miles. Beruma de gala tlosmei parsi. The height of a wave is 300 parso. Zim nechada vazlina be'orcha. We were traveling, Vidalina and Gala, and one of these waves lifted the boat until it was at the level of a small star. The area of the star was an area that they plant mustard seed 40 saw. If it would have lifted us higher, we would have been burnt up by the heat of the star. One wave said to the other, Chaverti, Shavkis midi ba'ama de lo shatva, say, Denisi anav anavde. One wave asked the other, is there anything in the world that you've never destroyed through a flood? It means that you've never flooded. Amr lo huk chazig vutech demarech. Look at your master. He was referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Molech hu techalav lavri. There's a strip of sand on every beach, and he doesn't allow the waters to go beyond that. Shenamar, Havsi lo tirunu mashem, imnei lo tachilo, shesamti chol gvul liyam, hokolam lo yavar. Pasuk in Yirmiyah. The Rashbam learns that this wave, which has this fire at the top of it, it's a spirit, it's not part of nature. It's some kind of spiritual mazik. And if somebody, a human being, is at threat of dying, besides the physical fear, there's like a spiritual fear. Some interpret these waves, it refers to bad things that happened to Klal Yisrael in the Golus through different nations. And these nations come to drown Klal Yisrael that are like compared to a boat. The Maharsha says the same thing. Others say that it's representative of a person who's going through life, that the ocean is like the journey of life. And these waves are like stumbling blocks and things that happen to a human being that he has to overcome. The Maharal says these measurements are just, they're just symbols. And the potential koach of water and wind that can get to become that powerful. Later in the Gemara. Amar Rabba, L'didi Chazili, Hurmin Barlilis. Some say the Rashbam, others says it's Hurmiz. This is a demon. He saw a demon. Ki karaida kupi deshur de mechuzah. He was running on the walls surrounding mechuzah. The roid parsha ki rochiv chayus mitate. There was a Persian horseman, I guess, trying to chase it. Lo yachalei, couldn't reach him. Zimna chadav v'mistargin leitarte kudnaisi. He once took two horses. B'kaimenatre gishri derognig. And I guess he caught up with him at the bridges over the river, Rognig. B'shar ma'ilai. But the demon jumped from one to the other. The nokitre mazgi the chamer biyad, and he had 2 cups of wine in his hand. And even though he had to jump this huge distance, and in jumping, he didn't drop a drop of wine to the ground. The also ayom, it was like a stormy day. Yalu shamam yardu tohomos. Havi atishamu be'malchusu v'katlu. The king heard about it and they killed it. Because usually a shade doesn't appear to human beings. So they made sure that the shade got killed so that it wouldn't spread. Maybe the shadim themselves killed him. The king of the shadim killed him. Because they were afraid that the shade was going to reveal their secrets. Others say it was the Roman Caesar that killed him, because he was going to take the country away from him. This was a human being who had relations with a female demon, and therefore it was dwelling among other human beings. Amar Rabba, L'didi Chazili Urzaila Bar Yomi. Urzaila is a re'aim. Re'aim is like a rhinoceros. It's a big animal. Let's see what it's like a deer or a ram. That's what an Urzaila is. The Avi Kahar Tabor, but it was as big as Har Tavor.
It says they translated as an antelope.
Okay. The Har Tavor Kamahavi Arba Parsi, 4 parses. Mushachat the Tsuvaret plus a parsi. The length of his neck was 3 parses. Ube Marvasa Dereshe Parsa Upalga. Where he put his head down to sleep was a huge place, parsa and a half. Rama Kufta V'Sachel El Yardena. He went to the bathroom and one of the stool plugged up the whole Jordan River. So what does this mean? The Maharsha says this is referring to Yoshua, because the bracha was to Yosef is Karnei Re'aim Karnav. And that's a reference to Yoshua, who conquered the 7 nations. And he caused the Jordan River to stop. But the Gra was mafarish it in bad terms. It's like a young Talmid Chacham But he's haughty about how much he knows. Even though he's a bar yomi, even though he's like a day old, he thinks he's as big as Moshe Feinstein. And he can't, he can't compete with other Talmidei Chachamim. Now comes a whole series of famous stories of Rabba Bar Chana. There's a whole book written on the following Agadita of Rabba Bar Chana. There's a certain English name. I forgot the name of the book. But there's a book that explains in depth all of these stories that were about to be told about Rabba Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Chana l'didi chazi le'ahu akrukta davi ke'akra da'agrunya. This was a frog that was as big as the fortress of Hungary. The Akra da'agrunya kamav, how big is that? Shasin bati, like 60 houses. Asa tanina, a whale came. Bala swallowed this frog. Asa fushangtsa ubala tanina, a raven came and swallowed the whale. The Salik Yosef be'ilna. And this raven went and sat on a tree. Look how strong this tree must have been to hold up this raven that had swallowed a whale, who had swallowed that palace. If I was not there, I wouldn't have believed it. The Grot says that the frog is a symbol of a Talmid Chacham, and the whale is like the Yetzer Hara, who wants to be mevatel from his learning, mainly because he has to earn a parnasa. And the Orev is a Talmid Chacham who overcomes the Yetzer Hara. And they live very poorly. He doesn't have a lot of means. The tree is the tree of life, which he merits by studying Torah. Again, the Maral in his normal way says that this represents certain kochos of the Teva, things that swallow, predators. One predator swallows the other. But the Elan that they land on is a reference to Kodesh Baruch Hu, really created everything and is mefarnes everything. The Marsha learns that this, again, is the various empires that have ruled over us. Rome, Greece. And they dominate us for a period of time, then they go away, and then another empire comes and swallows us. This image of being swallowed, that's what it means. They've taken over. But the Ilan represents the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Or the Zchus of Avraham Avinu, says the Marsha, to keep Klal Yisrael alive and thriving among the nations of the world that have oppressed us until the Mashiach comes. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Zimna Charev Kazlinan Misfinasa. We were traveling by boat. Chayzirahu covered the Asfale Achlatina Ba'usya. We saw fish that was sitting and eating some kind of sherets, some kind of other animal. And the fish was pushed by the water to the shore. The fish was so big that when the fish landed on the shore, it damaged 60 cities. So a fish cannot live out of water. So the people who now were displaced from their homes ate. The inhabitants of the 60 cities ate from the flesh of this fish. Umochu minei, they salted it to preserve it. Shasin mechuzi, 60 other villages came to salt the fish. The eye of a fish, I guess, has a lot of oil, and they filled 300 jugs of oil just from the eye of one of these fish. When we came back to the same place 12 months later, they were constructing planks out of the bones of the fish to build houses. They were rebuilding their town that had been destroyed. So the Maharsha says this is a remiss to Haman, who wanted to swallow Kleisser like a fish. Remember, the Gzeir of Haman was in Chodesh Adar. The Mazel, the constellation of Adar, is Mazel Dogim. And yet Mordechai, who was this little fish, caused the downfall of the big fish. Back to the Gemara. Again, the Ritva the Maharsha also says that it has to do with the Golus. That sometimes it looks like the Jewish people cannot survive. They don't have security. Sometimes they have security. Amar Rabbi Rachana. Back to the Gemara. So we were traveling by boat. We saw a fish that had a lot of sand on its back, and on the sand grew grass. So we got confused. Savrina and Yabeshli, we thought this was land. We had a picnic on the back of the fish's back, and we cooked food. And because it was hot, the fish flipped us over. If it wasn't that there was a boat nearby, we would have all drowned. So we were traveling by boat. The saga is Sfinosa bein Shitza l'Shitza, the Kavar Tlasa Yomi Tlasa Lelusa. The boat traveled between the fins of a fish, means the length of the fish from its tail to its head, 3 days and 3 nights. That's how big the fish was. They were swimming in opposite direction, and we were floating in the opposite direction. Maybe you'll say that the boat didn't travel very fast. The time it takes for you to take a kettle of water and boil it, which is very short, this boat was traveling 60 parsos. Vishari parsha gir v'kad malay. And if a horseman would shoot an arrow, the boat would arrive before the arrow. That's how fast it would go. But it describes how big this fish was. Took him 3 days to travel from the tail to the head of the fish. Ravashi, who gilded the Yomavi, the Isle Treishaitzi. It's a certain type of fish that has 2 fins. And again, the Rashbam seems to learn that it's the name of a small fish, and it just shows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates all creations. We were traveling by boat. We saw a bird that was standing on one foot in the water, and its head was in the heavens. We said, oh, there must be, it's not very deep. We wanted to check ourselves, to cool ourselves. A Baskal came and said, this is too dangerous, don't go down there. An axe of a carpenter fell into this water, and it's 7 years, and the axe hasn't hit the bottom of the ocean. It's not that there was so much water there. These very turbulent waters. So it's very dangerous to go there. Amravashi, Ahu Ziz Shadihu. This bird was a Ziz. Shanamar Yadati Kol Of Harim the Ziz Shadi Imodi. The Ritva says the bird is a remez to Klal Yisrael. They live on the ground with normal mitzias, normal reality, but their heads are in the clouds. And they think that they can, they want to enjoy the pleasures of the earth like other nations. So we're warned that no, it's very deep with a lot of danger. That's what the Ritva says. Others explain it refers to Talmidei Chachamim, even though it looks like they're not going that deep, and that other people can understand Torah like them, they're really plumbing the depths very deeply. And only great Talmidei Chachamim, whose heads are in the clouds, can retain this, the depths of it. We were traveling in a desert. We saw these geese that they're so fat that their feathers were falling off. And they're like rivers of fat dripping underneath them. Islan begaychu chelka lamadasi. He asked them to do. This seems to be like a chelik of olam haba. Chadid ligatva, v'chadid liatma. So one raised one wing, and the other raised a leg, as if they said yes. He also committed Rabbi Lozer, Amalei Atini Yisrael Litin Lemesadin. Klal Yisrael is going to have to pay back that because they didn't do tshuva. These geese, they are waiting for Klal Yisrael to do tshuva so they can get their reward. But they're growing fatter and fatter because they can't give the reward. By the way, the Ritva says the 2 geese here are Edom and Yishmael, Rome, Western civilization, and the Arabs. that during the times of the Golus, they're getting stronger and successful. But in the future, Klal Yisrael will have chelik of their wealth. The Marshat says the geese are remes to Chachma, and that the fat that's dripping from the geese is a spiritual enjoyment through Limud Torah. That which they're picking up their wing and their foot. We have to do things. You have to do mitzvahs. It's not just learning. It can't be theoretical. You have to do it with your hand and your feet in order to have chelik l'olam haba. Siman ka'afra detchelta trakte akrabul l'silta. These are simanim to the future sugyas. Amar Rabbi Chana. We were traveling in a desert. Our escort was a certain Arab. The Arabs were very good at guiding people through the desert. Like the Indians, right? The West, when they crossed the West, the pioneers had Indian guides. So in the Arabian lands, they had Arab guides. He would pick up dirt and smell it. And he would say, "Hi, Urchel Duchteplan, Urchel Duchteplan." You know what? This is how you get to Mecca, and this is how you go to Medina, based on the smell of the dirt. I mean, like, how far away are we from water? Give me some dirt. He said 8 processes. Then we gave him another dirt. Plus a parsi from a different place. They tested him, and they switched it back and forth. They couldn't. He was always correct. He was always right how far away they were by testing the dirt. Some say that this is a remez, the Yetzer Hara. Some say it's a remez to the Seichel. The Marshal says it's a mashal to Talmud Chacham that reaches a high level. Remember, we have a Haftorah that says the Mashiach will be able to smell, and through smell, that's how he'll decide what the halach is. V'haricho, he will smell it. Okay. Very good. Very interesting Gemara. Tomorrow we'll learn it. We'll learn at 6:30, and the Navi Shir will be at 8:00.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know, 6:30. I don't know what time Mincha will be. It'll probably be a bit earlier.
7:00.
No, I think